we also know that Mass Save's 2020 non-participant study found that renters, low-income households, and non-English speaking households are more likely to not utilize energy efficiency incentives. And we know that all residents of Massachusetts need and deserve to be a part of our collective clean energy future. So we've got to find a pathway towards that. We also have learned some lessons from our previous community-based models like Solarize and HeatSmart. And we've learned that there are still some persistent barriers that are harder to tackle. We know that not all communities are well served by a volunteer-led model. And in not being able to reach all communities, we're probably missing out on ideas for other models to expand this access. And we also know that leveraging relationships with trusted community partners is key to campaign success. So with all of this in mind, we put together the structure of EmPower. So with that, we'll go into the program goals and opportunities for EmPower. Hopefully folks have reviewed this already, but just as a refresher, our overarching goal is to provide access to the benefits of clean energy for previously underserved populations in Massachusetts. It's important to highlight access to the benefits of clean energy. I'm going to talk about this in a slide upcoming, but we wanted to take a holistic view of exactly what that means. And so we hope to achieve this through investing directly in communities and community-based organizations and crowdsource solutions for program models or projects to increase that access to the benefits of clean energy. Because we believe that many of the solutions to clean energy access lie within the communities themselves. So we're hosting participant workshops that you all are obviously here today, and there also is another one next week at 5:30. So we're offering an evening session as well. So feel free to either join that one again or let folks know that there is an alternate option to today. We're also offering 2 different styles of grants. We've got a smaller innovative building grants that ranges $5,000 to $25,000, and also an implementation grant, which is larger, that's $50,000 to $150,000. And I will dig into a few more details on exactly what those are in some of the next slides, but that's the sort of overall structure of offerings. So what is the difference between each grant? It's reasonably straightforward given the titles, but we do appreciate that there's a little bit of a challenge of understanding kind of the nuances between these. And so the Innovation and Capacity Building Grant, this is really where you're in an early stage place with your idea. It's a new and innovative idea for a program model or project that you're exploring that still needs discovery, refinement, and other efforts. So this funding opportunity is meant to provide seed funding to build towards future program models or projects, either with a future implementation grant funding rounds or through other funding sources. And the implementation grant is a program model or project that's relatively complete and really is just ready to go, but you just need funding to make it happen. I think a good note is that if you do need to do outreach as a part of your program, that's certainly considered capacity building, but we'd ask that that be built into your implementation grant application because we think that, especially if you've got an idea that's ready to go, put that all together in the implementation grant. Because one applicant can apply for both grants, but they do have to be 2 separate ideas. So you can't apply for both grants with the same idea. So just a point of clarification there. Hopefully that helps folks. If this causes even more confusion, we've got opportunities later to talk and in the coming weeks. So definitely let me know if you've got any questions later on down the line about that. So wanted to also offer some hypothetical examples and highlight the eligibilities for the Innovation and Capacity Building Grant first. A great example is a community-based organization could apply for the grants to fund staff to conduct community outreach sessions to help inform potential future clean energy campaign. So that's, you're not quite sure what you want to do, but you think you've got an idea, but you want to reach out to folks and see if it will land well. A partnership between a municipality and a community-based group could apply for funding to prepare to launch an energy efficiency campaign with a Mass Save Municipal Partnership Program in 2022. Or a community-based organization could apply for funding to explore clean energy solutions to urban heat island impacts in a priority group neighborhood. Eligible uses, just to, this is all very detailed in the RFP, so definitely take a look there. But just as a reminder, funds can be used for staff time, concept development or refinement, technical studies, costs for like a grant writer or professional service, or costs with ongoing community engagement,
Lisa's frozen, right? It's not just me?
Yep, she's frozen for me as well.
Okay.
Not just you.
Frozen for me too.
Hi all. If Lisa doesn't rejoin shortly, I may jump in and start covering for her. So let me give her a minute to rejoin while I get myself set up. But if not, then I'll take over.
Meg, do you think we should take questions on capacity building grants since it's sort of a natural break?
Sorry, Bev. That was a that was a good suggestion. I was just getting a phone call from Lisa, who unfortunately lost her internet connection, so she has to restart her modem. She apologizes to everyone, but I am just going to take over and kind of keep things running for now, and we'll save questions until we get through this presentation, and then we will have some good time for Q&A. Can everyone see my screen now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So I think Lisa was just in the middle of talking about what the innovation and capacity building grants can be used for. You know, we want to make sure we highlight that these grants can be used for future rounds of implementation grant funding through Mass CEC or other funding sources, grants, other funding sources that aren't through Mass CEC, such as the Mass Save Municipal Partnership Strategies Program, which is an opportunity to leverage the Mass Save incentives in your community. And we will have a breakout room about that at the end with someone from Mass Save. And the timeline for this is to use the funds within 2 years. And then in terms of the implementation grants, those are really for campaigns that are fully ready to go. A hypothetical example could be a partnership between a community organization and a municipality to do a fully bilingual solarized style campaign. Another idea could be an energy efficiency company that wants to partner with a community organization and has an innovative financing model to package together efficiency, electrification, and solar, especially targeting landlords and renters. Another hypothetical example, again, just to kind of get the juices flowing, would be a team that's targeting healthcare organizations, using some funding from them to install solar PV on schools in an environmental justice community. We are looking for clear metrics and outcomes from each proposal on the implementation grant, but you'll see in the RFP, it's sort of flexible. We're letting people propose what metrics they think make the most sense for them and their project. And for this grant, we're looking for funds to be used within 3 years. They can be used faster, certainly, but that's just if people do envision a little bit of a longer campaign, that's that's the timeline we're thinking. And I think another thing we wanted to hit on this presentation was just why we, in the RFP, we say that we're looking for program models and projects that increase access to the benefits of clean energy. And we deliberately phrased it this way to make it clear that we're not just talking about putting solar on someone's house, which we are open to that kind of project. But we are also looking or interested in other projects that might increase those benefits. So one thing we're thinking about that could be cost savings. Community solar is a great example where it's not on a person's home, but they are getting benefits to cost savings. There's clean air, public health benefits. And then we're also sort of want to be creative in thinking about how these technologies may benefit people. For example, insulation, there's obviously the energy benefit, but also, there's a quality of life benefit in terms of sound deadening. And well-designed lighting can be a real enhancement for a neighborhood, maybe powered by solar and batteries. Heat pumps provide a cooling benefit, which is increasingly important as our climate changes. I do see that Lisa's back. So Lisa, if you want, I can pass things back over to you. I'm happy to keep my slides up and just advance them, or let you take over the screen, or just keep going.
Why don't you, I don't know, I'm not sure where we are. If you want to just keep going for the moment and.
Great. So we also want to talk about the program's definition for priority groups. So we've defined it for EmPower Mass as environmental justice populations. So when the RFP went out, we were referencing the 2017 EEA policy about environmental justice that had definitions and geographic definitions. And then since then, the new legislation has passed that puts into Massachusetts state law definitions for environmental justice populations. So I think we're looking at both of those, although we do want to note that those are both like pretty geographically based definitions for the most part, that we're not necessarily looking for communities that have to be strictly geographically bound to a certain census tract. If there are non-geographic networks, we are also open to that kind of proposal. And then finally, we also want to target renters. Any model that would work. We know this is a persistent barrier and split incentive issue. So we want to target renters, and then finally communities disproportionately impacted by environmental hazards such as air quality or heat. And if you have any question about the group you want to work with, and if this meets our criteria, please just reach out. And if you don't see it, but you think, please reach out and discuss if you have any questions or think that you'd like to expand this definition. So then who we're looking to apply to EmPower. You were saying, anyone who's taking the time is to join this workshop is a great candidate. But basically anyone who's looking to increase equitable access to clean energy. We do want to see community-based organizations with a demonstrated history of working with the communities that they're proposing to work with for the EmPower projects. That doesn't necessarily have to be on energy-related topics, but we do want to see that sort of connection to the communities that are the proposed target of the EmPower projects. Additionally, nonprofits, individuals can apply, municipalities can be part of a team, for-profit organizations, including installers, financial institutions. For the municipalities or for-profit institutions, we're asking them to partner with a community-based organization. And then sort of nonprofits, individuals, is a little more of a judgment call. But if we're really looking for someone on the team to have that demonstrated history of working with the community that the EmPower campaign would be working with. So sort of what I was starting to get into, if you can't say that you have this demonstrated history, then you should maybe think about a community-based organization as a partner. And the third bullet point we have here, if you're a for-profit but you think you have that sort of connection to a community, reach out and talk to us. again, just reiterating, reach out and talk to us. We're very open and want to sort of discuss your situation and help kind of guide you the best we can. So I want to take a moment here just to acknowledge that Mass CEC recently put out a separate RFP, but it's also targeting underserved and overburdened communities. So our Act for All program just launched and has a similar deadline. I think it's early September, and but it's really focused on transportation. So it's meant to pilot innovative clean transportation programs. There will be a breakout group with Jade Liu from our team for anyone who's particularly interested in transportation, and she can kind of help guide some questions about what, if your idea is better suited under that program or EmPower. In general, Act for All has some really specific focus areas they want to hit, whereas EmPower is a little broader. So if you fall in one of those buckets under Act for All, that's probably a great place for you, and otherwise maybe EmPower. But this is another one of those situations, please talk to us. And then we also wanted to mention Mass Save Municipal Partnership Strategy Program. This is not our program, but we felt like it's so closely aligned with the goals of EmPower, and also a great potential funding opportunity. Definitely something that we imagine maybe someone could apply for a capacity building grant this year, looking to launch a campaign with Mass Save next year in 2022. So we will have a breakout group with Amanda Formica from National Grid and Mass Save if you think that might be of interest to you. And then this is just a timeline. We did launch May 18th with proposals due on August 18th. We have pre-announced we're definitely going to have another round of innovation and capacity building grants due this November 10th. So, you know, if you can apply by August, great. If you think you need a little more time and want to hit that November timeline for those grants, that's fine too. For the implementation grants, we just have one deadline of August 8th announced for now. However, we do plan to launch a second round of that in about a year in spring 2022. So the exact deadline on the timeline on that isn't announced, but we are planning to have a second round of implementation grants in 2022. And then we hope we'll get approved for funding to continue beyond that, but that's that amount of funding we are sure about so far. And then we have these workshops today, and then the June 16th workshop that Lisa mentioned. Lisa, would you like to jump back in here, or should I keep going?
I can jump back in. Thanks so much, Meg. I really appreciate that. And sorry, everyone, that I never lose internet, and today was the day. So maybe the heat or something. But yeah, so to just kind of wrap things up on the program itself, I think, like, I hope we've made obvious enough. We really want to focus on giving as much in-kind or other types of support as possible. You know, we posted one-on-one chats, so feel free to request one. We've also been hosting office hours. We've had a lot of great questions come into office hours. We aren't hosting any this week or next week, but we'll probably bring them back after the workshops are over, because I think they were really helpful. We're going to continue to add content on the site, more kind of clean energy education modules or other informational videos to learn more about the program and just have some refreshers there. And we definitely want to help folks kind of network, meet potential partners, you know, and so we can help facilitate introductions. We're hosting a Slack channel. We started to get a little activity there, so we're excited to see kind of what comes of that as well. But yeah, I think if you don't see something here that you think would also be helpful in terms of kind of in-kind support or anything, let us know. We want to just make a good structure to help folks understand about the program and these, you know, particular challenges. So Meg, you want to go to the next slide? So we just want to do a quick refresher on clean energy solution opportunities. This is by no means, you know, has everything on it, but we think it covers quite a bit. And we want to, again, make folks think kind of holistically about what solutions might be out there to help folks either, you know, directly get clean energy, access to the benefits, or kind of meaningfully reduce that energy burden. So there's various energy efficiency opportunities, you know, building envelope, appliances, heating and hot water, even lighting. There are various renewables, you know, solar hot water, solar PV, community shared solar, or other measures like energy storage or electric vehicles. And I think we also know that there are a lot of barriers to accessing the benefits of clean energy, especially for priority groups. We know there's still high upfront costs. There's challenges with split incentives with renters and landlords. Some folks have a hard time accessing loans due to low credit scores. Vendors themselves have customer acquisition challenges. There's a lot of maybe expensive renovations needed to support clean energy. There's a lack of available space, maybe for something like solar PV or other technologies. Generally a lack of knowledge and education, although we know that that's been growing over the years. There's a lack of seeding. I think you could think of seeding as like a Solarize-like program where you go in, you introduce a technology, have some early adopters adopt it, help spread the word to kind of their friends and neighbors. And because we may, only have reached a certain, sort of subset of the population with those programs, there's still a persistent lack of seeding, particularly in minority populations. And there's also a lack of representative workers in the industry as well. So thoughts flowing about these concepts. And so we're going to put out some polls. I think this slide is a little bit outdated. We just have 2 questions, but Jason, I don't know if you can pull up that poll. We just want to sort of crowdsource some thoughts before we start heading into the breakout rooms. We'll give about maybe 30 seconds or so for folks to put those thoughts in. And can everyone see the results as they're coming in? No.
I can, but I don't know if other outside of Mass EC can.
I don't think so.
I think we can. Okay.
No.
If we give it another minute, I can do a screenshot and share that.
That will be perfect. Yeah, sorry, we don't always know what it looks like from the other end there. Got just about most people voting, so maybe about another 30 seconds. We'll take that screenshot and we'll share the results with everyone. See what folks are thinking about these 2 questions.
Looks like it's slowed down, so let me.
Can now everyone see the results? I think they might be shared now.
I did just share them.
Yes, I can see them.
Great. Thank you everyone so much for participating. I mean, it certainly looks like there's a spread, but definitely seems like access to financing is still most important to address. In terms of a persistent barrier, and pretty interesting results on the second one, kind of which clean energy solutions. A lot of folks are really thinking that it is some combination and not just kind of one particular solution. So I think those are some interesting and informative results that I think we can take in and folks can think about, and we can certainly think about as we start to transition into our breakout rooms and have some discussions on these same questions, but hopefully in a more in-depth manner, and then of course talking a little bit more about some potential ideas or what folks are thinking about for EmPower. So with that, Meg, if you could go. Oh, I'm sorry. There is one more. There's one more slide. Meg, if you want to go back one. I don't think. So this is just a slide that is not completely exhaustive, but we just did want to highlight that there are a lot of incentive programs out there for the various solutions. We might be missing some here. Some may apply to more than one category, but that's also just something that we want to make sure folks realize, and that, if folks aren't entirely familiar with kind of everything, we want to help. If you've got an idea of something you want to do and you maybe just need a little bit more of a direction on kind of what incentives might be available for certain kind of technologies or solutions, let us know, and we want to get you in touch with folks that may have some more details or answers on that. And also we'll host again a few of those breakout rooms later that will talk specifically about pretty much all of these specific technology solutions. So with that, I think if we can hop into questions. So I think first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop open the chat and see first to go through there, and then we'll go through folks. You can either type your questions in, or you can do a little hand raise and ask the question verbally. We do have a few questions in the chat. So community-based organizations as applications, do they need to be a 501c3? No, they do not need to be a 501c3. We recognize that that could actually be a barrier to folks, potentially getting funding, right? So that's something that folks do not need to be, because even an individual could feasibly apply. 501c3, of course, is eligible, but you do not need to be one to be considered, number one, eligible, or two, a community-based organization. It could be a smaller advocacy or neighborhood organization that doesn't have that status quite yet. Is there an anticipated date for awarding the grants or program startup? So in terms of anticipated date for awarding, we'll have that first round due August 18th. So our best case scenario, we're really hopeful that we'll award within 1 to 2 months. And then sometime thereafter would be some of the anticipated start dates. So I probably envision that some of those start dates might probably be in early 2022, and then maybe slightly later, depending on what folks are planning on doing. So another question here, can an implementation grant be used to develop software to enable an energy program or project? That's a really interesting question. I'm not sure we had really thought about software. I think that's interesting, and we'd like to talk to you more about it. So I think if you want to connect with us directly, we'd love to hear a little bit more about, what group you're trying to target, and maybe what technology you're hopeful to use. I think in thinking about, all of these, it's always really valuable to think about, both the group that you're trying to reach, and the sort of the solutions you're trying to use in terms of, which buckets you might fall into. So definitely, Susan, connect with us, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And that goes for everyone. If you're not quite sure if either your idea is eligible, I think we've mentioned this before, but any questions, or you're not quite sure, we can point you in the right direction.
One thing I would add to that on the software side is for the implementation grant specifically, we are looking that some kind of program or project, but it will lead to real people getting access to the benefits of clean energy. So we've been purposely pretty broad on that, but I think we'd want to know at the end of whatever initiative we were funding, even if part of that was software development, that it really did lead to a difference in people's lives for the implementation grant. So definitely still talk to us, but that's just a little thing I wanted to add.
Great, thanks, Meg. Yeah, and so another question in here, will the incentive chart be available, or will we sort of share it in another way? So we'll definitely make these slides available. We're also recording this session, not the breakout rooms, but this part of the session. So we'll also share that with folks. And what we're also doing, like I mentioned before, that's an example slide that we actually have from some of our education modules that we're also going to start, continuing to put up on the website. So we'll make sure that's available to folks, and of course, can kind of host one-on-one sort of question sessions if you want to learn more about maybe a specific technology and then the related incentives. I don't see any more questions in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised. So maybe we'll give it, maybe 1 or 2 more minutes to see if folks have questions. Otherwise, I think it'll be a good time to transition to our breakout rooms to keep the discussion going. So if anybody else has a question, feel free to raise your hand or place it in the chat. All right, great. Well, why don't we then start transitioning to our discussions? So Meg, if you could just go to, to the next slide. So, so like I touched upon briefly before, from about, I guess we'll be starting a little early, so this is nice. From about probably 12:40 to about 1:20 or so, we're gonna be in some breakout rooms that are pre-assigned, and they're random, or ideally as random as we could make them, where we'll have some Mass CEC staff in each of those rooms that will help facilitate the discussion. We'll have some specific questions that will guide you through, and just hopefully have a nice robust discussion about this opportunity, about the clean energy solutions, and potential ideas for the program. And there should be about 10 to 15 folks in the rooms based on amount of attendees that we have here today. Yeah, and so I think with that, Jason, I just wanted to check in. Are we all set with the breakout rooms? I know we also had another technical difficulty with that too.
Yeah, if everybody keeps their fingers crossed, I think we should be okay.
Yeah, we had randomly had them assigned, and then apparently they disappeared. So everything, you know, that could go wrong is going wrong, but we're navigating it well. So so what we're going to do then is, why don't we'll start the breakout rooms. You should be automatically put in the breakout room. If something goes wrong, or maybe you're a late joiner or a late registrant, you may stick in the main session. No worries. A couple of us will be hanging here in the main session, and we'll help get you into a room. So with that, thanks so much for listening to our sort of initial overview. Happy discussions, and we'll see you in about a half hour.